Or?
Yeah, he's a real chance, and so he's done a fair bit of training actually with us. He wasn't marking the ball early on, but then he was running around last week catching the ball in training sessions. Trained really hard again on Saturday, so he's a chance, a big chance to come back in. Lance trained last Friday and pulled up really well. Trained hard again today, so we'll see how he is as well this week. So there's no certainty for either of them. They've still got to finish training this week, but they've had a good progression so far.
So he is a chance when not so long ago he was sort of 3 to 4 minimum.
Yeah, his knees come on really well. Like his knees in really good shape now. So the bone bruising it's turned around pretty quickly, and so that once the swelling went out of it, he's been feeling really good. He did a really solid session on Friday, which was ahead of schedule. Pulled up well over the weekend, and then trained really hard again today. Did a really solid session, and we'll see how he is. He obviously had a week or so off running, but then got back in last week and ran and pulled up well again today.
Something in the water here with all these miraculous recoveries, John?
Yeah, well, it's I'm not complaining about it, put it that way. It's what Hick was able to do on the weekend was incredible, and he's got obviously great courage, but also the ability to be able to put it to his back of his mind and get on with the job at hand was a real strength. He goes up a level again this week against one of the best ruckman of his generation in Max Gawn, so he'll get tested again this week, no doubt.
So you okay, Tom? Like pulled up fine?
Yeah, pulled up well, and so that's good. Had the normal bumps and bruises, but had a smile on his face today, and so he should be right.
With Dane, does he need to see the surgeon again, or is it just all about?
He saw the surgeon last week, and the surgeon gave him the all clear to do what he needs to do. It wasn't to play last week, but he's been able to train and train really hard, and he feels good about himself. He was able to play a couple of games before he got it operated on as well. He's quite capable to be able to put things to one side and get on the job at hand. But the most important thing was to make sure he's okay. We wanted to make sure we looked after the injury-wise. It's not just for a game of footy. It's a bit more important than that for him, and that's why we got the operation in the first place and why he's had a couple of weeks off.
Is the biggest risk there that he might re-break it, or is it just sort of making sure
the reality is once the surgeon gives it the all clear, it's he gets back into playing. So that's the reason why he hasn't played the last couple of weeks.
And with Lance, he's obviously able to do a lot of training before the knee problem. Is that sort of like good credits in the bank essentially? Like, are you more likely to pick him because he was able to do that level of work?
Yeah, he certainly had a lot of work behind him. He was also able to continue his weights and strengthening work even when he wasn't able to run with the knee. And it was a lot shorter period that he wasn't able to run than what we predicted. So that was a good sign. So he's able to get in there and go again and get the miles in his legs, which is what we've always required from him, is to make sure he gets that level of training before we play. And we'll sit down this week and go through it in great detail again, obviously, and work out whether he needs to play this week or not. And it'll be based upon the amount of work that we think he's got in over the last week or so.
Can you talk us through practically how does the decision-making process work? They're two of your best players, obviously the temptation's there. Is it first up to them to say, yes, I'm ready, and then B, sort of, what happens?
There's no real, you go A, B, C or D. You just have to sit around and have a chat about it, but you get all the facts in front of you. You look at all the training sessions they've done, how they're feeling, what they're saying. They're senior players, whether they know themselves pretty well, but then we put the bit of science in the background behind it with actually the work that they've done, the amount of kilometres they've trained, surgeon's report in Dane's case, and so all of that comes into the mix, and then you just make a decision. We understand that these aren't black and white decisions. They're not just, they're decisions that you make according to the information you've got in front of you at the time, and that's all you can go by.
John, can you take us into the box for the last 2 minutes on Saturday night? What was it like in there?
Oh, it was okay. We couldn't do much. You can't get a runner out, so you can't do much. It was after Paps kicked the goal, you really couldn't do much. After that point, the boys got a few things sorted, which was great to see. And we've been in that situation 3 times now this year, so it's not as if it was completely foreign to us. So, it was a great game of footy in the end, wasn't it? It was, the crowd were right up and about in that last quarter, and fortunately we just hung on.
Who's it on field then that takes the coaching reins and gets things sorted?
It's all the leaders. They're really important, but or your leaders, experienced players. Isaac's very important in those times as well. There's a number of players that do that. We didn't get everything right, but we got a fair bit right, which is good. Sometimes you can get everything right and still lose, and so that's just the way it goes. Yeah.
John, just to round out injury stuff from the weekend, I imagine Lewis Millican, how's he? Is he probably out?
Yeah, he's done it. He's a hamstring, so he'll be a couple of weeks. Unfortunately, because we were really pleased with the way he went on the weekend, and so we've just had a few of those injuries as we've gone along, particularly to some of the key position players. We're hoping to get, obviously, if Dane was able to come back in this week, we're hoping to get it settled again. But there's been a couple come out. But the really good thing is that they've been able to come back and play within a few weeks. That's been a real positive.
Is George Hewitt come straight back in, or is he still?
Georgie we'd expect if he gets through the training sessions and the protocols that's required this week, he'll be available, and then we'll just sit down and work out what the team looks like. A bit of it will depend upon the other blokes available as well.
You're up against the ladder leaders, but they've already knocked off, I guess, the top 3 of 4 from last year. So what is it about this group that's able to step up against these biggest ties?
We've got to keep doing it. It's the challenges don't get any less. There's no question about that. We played here against a team on the weekend that was won by nearly 100 points last week, and we're on a roll at quarter time. So then you get through that, and then you look at this week, and it's the team that's undefeated and are in great form, and the challenges that presents as well. So this competition's always about lifting and going to the next level, and we'll need to this week. We need to play their very best all over the ground. They're a great team, Melbourne. They're in ripping form. They're in the best form they've been in for years, and I'm sure they're very confident.
Any particular challenges you'll be focusing on, whether it's their contested ball winning or
it's all of. They're doing everything right. I mean, it's not just one particular area when you're undefeated. It's everything's going right for you, isn't it? Like from their midfield dominance to their ability to be able to hit the scoreboard and ability to be able to defend. They're a very well-rounded team. That's why they're sitting where they are.
So just on Tom Hickey, he's probably playing the best he maybe ever has at AFL level. Did you identify something in his game that you thought would sort of, complement what you guys do really well? Like, did you expect him to be this good? Basically?
He's a ruckman for a start, which was something we needed. We'd been relying so long on Callum, and obviously with Sam Naismith being injured for such a period, it was a good time. But then when we looked into it, we just realised that he knows his craft really well. And even on the weekend, the ability to be able to come in and know your game really well, know your strengths and weaknesses, he's very good at that. And I hope he keeps going. It's he's been good so far. As I said before, though, he comes up against this week not only Max Gorn but Luke Jackson, who's in ripping form as well. So he comes up against two beauties in the MCG.
And John, there's some vision circulating this morning from the VFL game on the weekend. Obviously, Paddy McCartan looks like VFL or AFL or whoever's in charge of investigating it. Have you seen that? And obviously, it doesn't look good for Paddy.
Yeah, look, it's very disappointing. It's very disappointing for Paddy. He's a quality bloke. It's very unlike him and completely out of character. So the main thing is Aaron, if he's okay, and that's the main thing out of the equation. And as I said, it's very out of character for Paddy.
You haven't yarned to him today?
I've had a brief chat with him. Yeah, he's very remorseful and, as I mentioned, completely out of character.
And how's he tracking more generally? Obviously, I think he did break his hand on the weekend too. So, but just in terms of him playing football again.
Yeah, it wasn't in that incident though. He
No.
fell over and hurt his thumb. But look, he'd only played a couple of games, probably 3 games I think up until then. And the first, he was just getting back into it. So he's just really started. Obviously, this will set him back a bit. We'll wait and see how it goes after that.
Also on the VFL, Nick Blakey, he hasn't been back there much, but he was on the weekend. So what was your message to him before he went back to play VFL?
Like anyone else, like BJ or like anyone else that goes back, is to go back and work on your strengths and make sure you keep working at that and come back in and when you get the opportunity again, play to your strengths. That's what it generally is for anyone that goes back.
What was the sort of assessment of Braden and Logan's performance?
Yeah, they were pretty good. And once again, it gets back to the amount of changes that we make and the availability of other players. We've sort of made 6 and 5 changes, I think, over the last couple of weeks, and so we'll look at that. We'll look at whether the younger blokes are ready to come back in straight away or not. Sometimes it's about bringing them straight back, sometimes or giving them a little taste and bringing them straight back. Sometimes it's about going back for a couple of weeks and getting a bit of confidence, building a bit of work, and then coming back in. So everyone's different.
And is Robbie Fox expected to be in senior calculations?
He'd certainly be in calculations. He played on the weekend and was played really well. So it was great to see him back in. He's fit, he runs hard. He was good on the weekend, so he'll come back into the mix as well.
John, there's a bit of chat about maybe a captain's call needed after the Jeremy Cameron mark. Lee Montaigne's all for it. Do you have any thoughts on a captain's challenge?
I think we've got enough going on in the game at the moment myself. Another layer might be a bit much at the moment. Let's not react after one game.